Welcome back to Breaking the Silence. And this, of course, is In Conversation. And I'm your host, Steve Neal, lifelong experiencer uh, with the Breaking the Silence project. Today, I'm very blessed to have Suzy Hansen here and Bob Salas. I think you both know who both of these people are. They both have amazing experiences. Of course, Suzy with her book, The Dual Soul Connection, and Bob's written three books. The one that's more current is UAPs and the Nuclear Puzzle. Did I say that right? Nuclear? I put an accent to that. Anyway, it's great to have you guys here. It took some time to coordinate all this because Suzy's in New Zealand and Bob's in Ojai. It's a joke. He's a stone's
That's a
throw away
strange
from
place.
me.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, it is a strange place. It's a great place. I like it up there. So, welcome, you guys. It's really nice to have you here. I never would have met Suzy if it wasn't for you, Bob.
well, I've been a big fan of Suzy since I first talked to her. Me and my wife, Marilyn. No, I absolutely recommend Suzy's book to everyone, as I'm sure she'll go into her early experiences, and I assume, Suzy, they're continuing.
I remember the first time I met Bob, I'd heard some good things about him, and for some reason I had this feeling that I had to meet him and introduce myself. And we were at the UFO Congress, and I saw Bob leaving, and someone had told me, "Oh, he's catching a flight. You better hurry if you want to talk to him." And I remember running through the back of the auditorium and out into the foyer and calling out to Robert to stop. And we sat down for a few minutes and had a really instant, I think anyway, an instant rapport, and this feeling that this was meant to be. So our friendship developed from there. But if I hadn't sprinted out of the auditorium, I would never have made that link so soon.
Well, I'm glad you ran after me, Suzy. But I really admire Suzy. She's been a staunch advocate of experiencers and her experience and the meaning of it, and not it, but the many experiences she's had. Um, and of course, I'm an experiencer too now. And uh, it's something that I'm glad you've got us on, Steve, because I know you have made a lot of inroads too, and speaking to a lot of experiences on your show, Breaking the
Definitely,
Silence. And
definitely.
we've got a lot to learn, a lot to share.
So, how did we meet? Do you remember? I do.
You and I, Steve?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't remember.
Well, we knew someone, Marianne, with the newspaper up in Ojai, who she
Okay,
told,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
she
right.
told you about me, and one evening I got this message from Robert Salas that, hey, I hear we have some things in common. Why don't you give me a call? And I called you up, and we had a nice curry dinner, Indian food dinner with you and Marilyn, and we've been friends ever since.
We have. And I'm
Yeah,
happy for the friendship, Steve.
me too. Me too. Very blessed. So we should probably start this by letting Suzy talk a little about her experience because not everybody has is seen the shows we have done with Suzy. We've done a very long in conversation, but just and maybe some of them haven't heard of her before or read her books. So this might be a good time to uh, to introduce yourself to a lot of new people who have joined the community recently, Suzy.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Well, I'll sort of look at what I do in New Zealand first, just briefly. Um, I began researching both sightings and contact experiences, which were very new and virtually unheard of in New Zealand at that stage in 1975. And from there, I worked independently, coming across people who'd had sightings or some kind of experience with a UFO or something else, and began documenting their stories. I was shifting around quite a bit at that time with my former husband. We were both teachers, and we were being posted to teach in quite remote areas. And it's interesting to note that initially we were posted to what's called the East Coast region of New Zealand. It's very remote, and that's where my very first, what I recall as contact experiences took place. Um, Eventually, I moved to the city and joined a UFO club that had been around for decades, and became a strong supporter and friend of the elderly gentleman who ran it and helped him run it for many years. So I learned a lot of him and the other veteran UFO researchers. In 2000, I decided that it was fairly fragmented in New Zealand, so I started up a sighting um, national sighting website and UFO reporting system, and worked with pilots and air traffic controllers, scientists on this endeavour. So it's been going for 26 years. My own experiences began when I was a child. I remembered them largely in a dreamlike fashion, but I do have conscious memory of waking instantly at night and seeing these three glowing figures come into my room. They spoke to me, so I'm assuming now as an adult that was telepathic because I couldn't see their facial features. I only
Mhm.
felt what they emanated, which was real, powerful love. So I would be told I was going with them, and then I wouldn't remember very much at all, except perhaps the next day I may remember some dreamlike memory of some activity. Um, I used to talk to my mother about this, and she would say, "Oh, it's the spirit world, or it's your aunt and uncle who passed away years ago, and they've come to look in on you," and this sort of thing, which made me feel warm and protected. But at the same time, I knew that that wasn't really what I was looking at, and it wasn't
Mm.
angelic in terms of the church saying that it would be angels. So, really, in my teenage years, I don't remember much, but I had a catalyst experience at the age 20 where we saw a light in the sky, my flatmate and I, on a backcountry road, and eventually it moved in close to us and came over the top of our car. Massive white light swallowed us up, lifted us off the road. I don't remember much of what happened until years later, but at that time, it was both a terrifying experience, but at the same time, it was a catalyst that lurched me headlong into both sighting and contact experiences in New Zealand. I was fortunate to be in the East Coast area at the time of the Gisborne UFO flap in '78, and that
Mm.
was the time worldwide flap. So up to today, I still have experiences, but they are different in the sense that I've not taken on board a craft anymore. The communication is more direct than that, and I get insights and knowings that I see come true, or I put into action and they work. So at the moment, I've been
Oh,
getting the very powerful message that I'm to finish my second book. So that's what I'm about at the moment.
yeah, that all sounds very familiar to me, and that's something that I would like us to talk about, um, because Bob's been reading what I've been writing on Substack, and he knows what I'm talking about. Um, Bob and I, and Mary and CJ, a few other people, experiencers, went to see Stephen's movie, which was quite an undertaking. Um, and Bob kept grounding me because he kept nudging me. leaning over to me, and he said, "Do you think they did that?" Yeah, all through the movie, which was great because it was intense for me. But one of the things that I noticed, and it relates to what you were talking about, Suzy, is that a lot of people that I know that saw the film, they feel different since they saw it. They feel like something's been switched on or they've been activated. I've heard that both those terms used. And what you describe as um, what happens with me is I'll be thinking about doing something and I'm literally told, no, don't do that because that's not going to work out well. Do this instead. And then I follow it, and it absolutely turns out to be correct about how to approach things, um, especially in this subject and with people that I know in it. Um, so that's something I'm seeing more and more and more in the people that I know.
Yes, I think we're hearing the word activate a lot at the moment, but of course, back in the day, it's always been known to people in our age group as being triggered. So, something triggered you, something activated you. Like today, we're getting a lot of new terminology, some of it coming from experiencers themselves, perhaps the younger ones who want to kind of modernize the scene. But
Mhm.
also, we're getting terminology that's sometimes a little bit misleading, and that's coming from other sources that I'm a little more skeptical about. But yes, I've had so many experiences contact me since they saw that movie saying roughly the same thing. And people who have never had any recall of experiences but have contacted me saying, I'd like to join your You Folks NZ network, or I'd like to work with you in some way or do something to help. I've got this strong feeling that that's what I need to be doing. They have actually no memory of contact. And I know for sure that there are a lot of experiencers out there like that who are going to be more successful in what they do at this point in time if they're not known as experiencers, because there's still a lot of skepticism about that subject. So it's more beneficial for them to not be known, but to put certain things into action that are coming to them.
Do you think that, or did you get from people, and I'm asking this of you too, Bob, that one particular scene out of all the scenes in the film, the one where they reconstructed the house from her childhood and that bedroom scene and everything that happened there, that was the most emotionally moving experience for me in the film. I mean, literally, I could not stop sobbing, and I mean, literally, snot was running out my nose, and I had no Kleenex, and it really because it was so familiar. I mean, obviously, it was familiar because we all remember things happening in our childhood even better now. But it just pushed some buttons because the bedroom was so much like the bedroom that I had in the house, and the feel and the vibe and just the whole feeling of, seeing the deer and everything in the bedroom and stuff was really magical, and how it felt to me as a child. I wasn't so much afraid as I was in awe, and my emotions, even during that time as a child, were just surging during that period. And I felt that he out of all things in the film, he got that feeling right on the money. And so my question is, did other people that both of you, bring that scene up?
Bob?
Oh, well, uh, the scene you're talking about, Steve, did conjure up uh, something that I recalled for a long, long time earlier in my life, and I can still recall it to this day. And that's when I was a small child, uh, still in a crib in my bedroom, standing up in the crib and speaking to someone. I was asking the question to someone in that room. And again, I can't tell you who or what that individual was, but the question was, what am I doing here again?
Again is, of course, the
And
key word.
yeah, sure. But uh, I remember that vividly to this day. And of course, I was having, remembering having dreams of past lives. Even at that age, I was only about 3 or 4 years old at the most. But the other things that stood out for me in that movie, and I was really happy to see, is the emphasis on this secret group uh, that everyone was trying to escape from or was after them. uh, because I'm convinced that there is a secret group, and I've written about it in all my books, really, uh, that's controlling the release of information, the public release of information. Um, and of course, they're doing everyone a disservice by doing that. Um, and I was heartened to see that uh, the main characters in the movie were trying to release that information, or at least what they knew about it. And again, they turned out to be hybrid beings, which is something maybe Suzy can comment about, because certainly there is some sort of intent by our extraterrestrial visitors to produce hybrid beings, and as has been witnessed by many experiencers. Um, so I was happy to see that too. Um, those were the two major points of the movie that I was very happy to see.
I was just going to ask if you both uh, feel, because I do, that we have been genetically modified, and if we had the right tests done, we would find that out to be true. And I'm not just saying the three of us, but most of the experiencers, certainly the ones that, uh, for some reason, have been allowed to remember that they're involved in this program.
One thing I would like to comment, I'm sorry, Suzy, if I don't want to step on your toes here, but they, our visitors, are very well versed in manipulation of, let's say, genetics
Hmm.
of humans, of course, but probably other living creatures. Uh, yeah, that's the other, I think, an important point that really ought to be emphasized more. These are master geneticists. I see Suzy nodding. I'll turn the talking stick over to you, Suzy.
Well, I recall a time when I was taken into a large science lab, if you want to call it that, in a craft. And the scientist there showed me, as many experiencers have seen, big tubes, like perspex type tubes. But these were not just full of human-like or mixture of human and alien form. They were other kinds of creatures, and if you looked closely at them, I commented in my book that I could recognize certain Earth animals, and we had quite a long discussion about why they were producing these, and how they would disperse them on developing planets. So they really are master geneticists, and I would go so far as to say that most, if not all, experiencers have had gene intervention prior to their birth, but they've also had an intervention at a soul state as well. Some of them, and so it depends on what you've come here for and what you have agreed to with them and with the spiritual guardians of this planet as to what you hope to achieve in this life, what your aim is. And that may be different between all experiencers. So not all experiencers will have the same tasks or means of working towards it. But the part of the movie that touched me the most, I think, was the little girl walking through the forest with the animals, who were, of course, E.T. in disguise. That really touched me because as a child I felt very close to nature, and I still do. But I found my childhood was quite lonely because I perceived things that perhaps other children did not, and and so I had to learn very quickly to be quiet about that in order to survive the childhood hierarchy in the playground. But I considered friends, animals, domestic animals, to be my equal, so to speak, and I could communicate with them as many experiencers do, know when they were sick or sore or tired or frightened or whatever. So that one really touched me. I know that was a screen memory kind of thing, to appearing as animals in the movie when they were ETs, but that touched me because it was like a raw nerve from childhood.
That whole sequence was that. I got to spend a lot. I mean, I agree with you, Susie, and it's the same way with me with kids in the schoolyard. I kind of kept to myself. It took me a long time to find friends that didn't think because I looked through a telescope I was weird, or talked to animals. But I loved when I would go to summer camp every year. I got to spend so much time with the horses, and I really felt I had a real line of communication with that animal. And it's just the same look, that look in their eye that connects with you. That was very prevalent during those scenes. And it just, boy, it just somebody turned switch on in me. It was really something.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. But I'd just like to add that
Absolutely, Bob.
uh, we are not the only intelligences, even on our own planet, that every living thing, including plants, have a form of intelligence. And um, again, I think the ETs have realized and do realize that this is a very special place because of the variety of life forms on this planet, and uh, and they're all special. They're all important.
Yeah.
So I'm
Have you ever
go
encountered a
ahead.
stick bug? Have you ever encountered a stick bug?
No, but I saw that. That was part of the movie, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, actually, that was in Master and Commander. But uh,
Oh,
the
that's right.
other day,
Yeah.
I looked down
Okay.
at my dog. We just got back to the house. We had just been walking her over her daily walk, and there was like a stick on her, like because she'll put her head into the bushes and stuff. But it moved, and I went, "Oh my God!" And I put my hand under it, and it just crawled right onto my hand and looked at me. It was just wonderful, and it was a stick bug. We have them here, and I had a moment with that creature, and it that's what made me think of that, what you were saying, that
Yes, absolutely.
so I put him
Absolutely.
on the wall, and he sat there for like a full day, and he finally disappeared. So they don't move very
Yeah.
fast. But he accepted my hand, just got right on it. It was just I feel that they know our intentions, and I get that with spiders and all kinds of creatures. So
Yeah, I think we all have found that these other animals somehow want to connect with us and connect with other living things, in a friendly way.
I think COVID and the lockdowns, interestingly enough, created a situation where people drew closer to animals. I don't know about other countries,
Hmm.
but in New Zealand and Australia, we had this massive upswing of people taking animals from rescues and shelters and giving them a home during COVID and taking them out walking when you're allowed to walk anywhere, and having companionship with them. So there seemed to be this elevation of awareness of the companionship side of animal husbandry at that time. But I just want to go back to what Bob was saying about the hybrids and how, information is being released piecemeal or in a drip fashion. But I think, and I'm sure you'd agree, there may be various sources to that because we have some, former agency and government or military people who are releasing things in a drip feed way. But it's entirely possible that ET is doing the same, but in a very different way. So, in terms of sightings, etc., I remember back in the 90s
Hmm.
they said that the time would come when we moved into what they called the time of examination, which I think we're in now, of the subject. They would slowly, very slowly, begin to increase sightings um, until people were seeing actual craft, not lights in the sky, and then they would enable people to see craft, landed craft with entities nearby. And in the last couple of years, I've been getting some reports similar to that in New Zealand. Very few, but a small number. And I think that's going to happen worldwide, where, as they said, we will get to the stage where we can no longer deny it, and anything anyone in so-called authority has to say just won't be accepted or listened to, because the general public will be seeing things for themselves. Now, a lot of people are claiming they're seeing things now, but I suspect there's a lot of keen people new to the subject out there who are mistaking a lot of natural phenomenon or things that are in our atmosphere anyway, like satellites, etc. But the time will come when people will become wiser about that, and that's when I think they'll start showing up more. I remember they always said that experiencers should keep things simple. We shouldn't make anything too complex for the general public, because our aim is to bring the general public up to speed on the subject. And the best way to do that is in a non-threatening way, and in an informative but non-threatening way, and keeping it simple. So anything that's too complex, they're likely to ignore at this point in time. I also think there's different kinds of disclosure happening at this time. So Bob has been involved in Whistleblower, talking about the Malmstrom Air Force Base event and others like it. Then there's experiencers, and then you've got the people who are in a hurry to have a lot of documents released. And although that may have value to some people, it may be an important factor for them, it's not an important factor to me. Disappointingly, I'm sure some of my friends will think. But I do think that the ETs have this in hand. They're actually in control. And when they think we're ready, it's all about our readiness. When they think we're ready, then they'll just increase things a little and then a little bit more. And whatever efforts we make in the meantime is great, might be useful, but ultimately, I think they're in the driver's seat.
Well, as maybe add on to what you're saying, Suzy, we have some issues that are facing us humans right now that are reaching almost crisis stage. Um, uh, the risk of nuclear war uh, is growing. Um, uh, I I don't want to. I don't need to go into any details right now, but I will be working very soon with a collaborator uh, who is also an experiencer, by the way, and and has received scientific information, which we're going to talk about and display and show on video. And that's one of the reasons I'll be collaborating with him to make this video. But it also folds in with this risk of the use of nuclear weapons, which is, let's say, growing. And it's an existential threat. It's one of probably many existential threats that we have. Global warming being another one, right? But that's where I'm going to focus on in the next few weeks and months.
And Bob, of course, there's the environment, which is just terrible. I mean, it's so bad,
Yes,
and what's
right.
coming is so bad. And Whitley and I talk quite often, and one of the things that he mentioned to me a while ago was that what his visitors told him is that they wouldn't intervene, they wouldn't interfere, not unless we got to a critical point where the planet and ourselves were very much in danger of annihilation. Mary and I watch pretty much every day. There are certain channels that don't have a host, they don't talk. All they do is they collect the most recent UFO videos. They scour the entire social media internet and find these videos from all over the world, and it completely backs up what Suzy is saying. The sightings are on the increase, and they're getting more and more dramatic all the time, where we're starting to see metal discs, or at least discs that appear to be metallic in nature, and they'll just go up on a mountain and hover there and stay there for a long time, long enough for people, multiple witnesses, to get video of them. And also the spheres, the bogus spheres, for lack of a better description, are showing up everywhere. They even showed up in a video when I was flying my radar-controlled airplane. A friend of mine was shooting the editor. I noticed something because my eyes are very trained from all my years in Hollywood. In a few frames, and I slowed it down and I stopped it, and there was a bogosphere in the background. Tiny, small. I was able to enlarge it and resolve quite well. And I have the picture. And as I looked through the video, it would be in all different locations, just sitting out there, just beyond where my plane was flying. So it really is on the increase. And I feel that there's heavy monitoring going on, which is perhaps what these bogospheres are. I don't think they're ours.
Well, no, and I think they want more and more of the public to notice them and to see them and to start realizing that, yes, they are here and they're real. That's, I think, and maybe that will help us become better citizens of Earth
I hope so.
and, and evolve quicker.
The readiness they talked about, Bob, is not just institutions or anything like that in terms of readiness. They're actually talking about our spirituality and our ability to cope with contact in the future, and our ability to care about each other and care about the planet. And we may have to go through some very terrible earth changes, but after that, we would probably be shaken up so badly that we would take a new perspective on ourselves and our lives and the planet, hopefully. And that's the readiness that they're talking about, because we can't accept them on the planet when there's people who are not at that level of spirituality that they are looking for, that they can align with, that they can feel that there's a match in frequency with, would be far too dangerous for them and for us. So we don't know how long it could be before any kind of open contact happens. It's really reliant upon us. they're in control and they can help speed things up along the way. And I think that they're doing that. But they can't spoon feed us. It's like a class of children. If you spoon feed them, they don't learn anything. They have to learn the process themselves. And that's really what we're going through now, is learning the process that will lead eventually one day to contact.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that, like you said, they want us to resolve our issues together in peace, in peaceful ways. So, uh, this person I'll be working with, collaborating with, has received communications very specific, and one of them has to do with the concept of soul, of kind of you know a refinement of our soul energy, and how that process takes place. So that will be part of the discussion too.
That's very interesting because the book that I'm working on at present is not just about our soul and what they can do to enhance our soul, but it's also relates to the hybrid situation as well, and where that is going and what they're doing with that on the craft. So that's very timely that you're going to be doing that, Robert. I think more and more people will become aware of our soul and our agreements and our tasks in life, that we're not just here to have fun or otherwise. We're actually here for a reason, and it is building something. That's what we need to understand.
Susie, Susie, you didn't. I don't think you got a chance to read about what happened to me a little over a week ago. I know Bob did, and I was in the grocery store, and there was this very flamboyant and very loud young girl, maybe 15, 16 years old, with her dad. I knew it was her dad because she kept saying, "Dad, Dad," and she obviously was a special child, but she started picking up all kinds of objects in the store and reading them, and then making jokes to her dad about them. And all of a sudden, I was fascinated by her, but I connected with her. It was, and I was in a, it was a wrong place for this to happen. I mean, I'm in a grocery store, but suddenly I felt every part of her being, and her being, because she was autistic, and a special child, she had no fear, no anger, no hate. She was nothing but joy driven and full of wonder. And the more I let it in, the more my
Mm.
emotions, just like that scene in the movie, started to go wild. They're starting to do it right now. It happens every time I remember this. And it was intoxicating. And I had to break it off. Um, and it really, it's doing it now. It's giving me the chills because this was so clearly that I was telepathically or psychically connecting with her being. And the only, what I took away from that is, if human beings could do that, I think that that would be a huge improvement to our soul and how we deal with each other. I think it would end wars. I think it would end all the problems we're having, because that child was incredible and very
That's a
smart.
very positive. That's a very positive sign, Steve.
Yeah, but is it
Because,
happening to other people that are having experiences? Does that have to do with what happened seeing the film? I don't know.
well, let's think about it. I think it's important that we do connect with each other. Every person that we meet uh, have some sort of a connection. Uh, Basically, love each other is the answer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh God, the love I felt in that child was, it was overwhelming.
That's great. That's a very good story and a very positive thing, I think.
Yes, that is a very good story. That something like that can happen inconsequentially in a grocery store, and
Yeah.
you match that frequency. And I know a lot of experiencers have experienced that with the ETs and been taught to encompass it and make it part of ourselves and be able to reflect that. And I think as things open up, as people allow more of this feeling, attuning to their feelings, there's going to be more people feeling freer to actually express them. And that can be a frightening thing for some people. It can be a very emotional thing, as you've described. But
It
this is
was.
just another area, I think, of what humans have to go through. And people talk about contact happening this year or next year or whatever. But when I sit back and I really look at everything that we need to achieve in order to reach that frequency level or even close to it that the ETs are able to exhibit and utilize, I think we've got a long way to go. So this is what I mean by there's different kinds of disclosure, different ways that disclosure of different sorts can take place. But the true one is within us, what we do with our soul and our personality and what we do collectively. Because I also believe that the 100th monkey thing, where at first something's not very normal and then more people get to know about it, it becomes a bit more normal, and then suddenly so many people are interested, it flips, and it's the thing to do, it's the way to be or whatever. And I think that we will eventually reach that where more and more people will accept things they never once were able to accept. And I look, as a medium, I look at the veil lifting, and people will be able to see and experience more of other, well, I'll say dimensions, because I don't know what else to call them, that I have seen around us as part of our planet or part of the space that our planet inhabits, living in that same space but in a different place, so to speak. We will be able to see more of that and understand more of the afterlife as well, which is another big fear factor for a lot of people. And it's all tied together with contact with ET, because these are capacities they have and they're capacities we need to develop if we're going to meet them halfway somewhere.
I agree.
I think
Uh,
we've all experienced the
yeah.
afterlife somewhat, haven't we?
Uh,
Yes.
I have very strong memories of it that I will never forget.
So many people
Suzy?
still don't accept it, though.
Well, until they have the experience themselves, or they open up enough that they allow it. I mean, they're sleeping at night and they're leaving their bodies often, and they don't even realize it. They'll have dreams about their mother who passed years ago and say, "Oh, I had this funny dream, and I saw my mom and she was fine and we had a nice talk." And it's funny how dreams are. I mean, I hear people say that they don't realize that that was real.
Mm. Yes, well, I could tell you a little story about that, if I may.
Please do.
I worked with an air traffic controller in New Zealand for 20 years, very close friend of mine and colleague. He was probably one of the first air traffic controllers to be practicing and working at the time, um, to actually step out and start investigating UFO sightings, and he had to get permission to do that. So he led his whole life very straight down the line, very upright, community-minded person, but also quite narrow in things that he was happy to look at, so to speak. And it
mhm.
wasn't until the he had cancer, bone marrow cancer. And it wasn't until the last days of his life that he woke up one night in hospital, and he was on no medication, so we can't blame that. He woke up and felt as if someone was looking at him, and opened his eyes, and there was a grey next to his bed smiling at him, and he had this influx of information about how he'd been part of something all his life, but he didn't know it and he couldn't know it because he had to have the standing of a practicing ATC working in the UFO field and bringing that credibility. So he'd worked all these years and he'd done all this amazing stuff in communities and with people and aviation. And at the last minute in hospital, he found that out. And he was a very precise person. So this happened in the early hours of the morning, and he waited until 8 o'clock in the morning to ring me so that he wouldn't wake me up. And when I answered the phone, he was absolutely beside himself with excitement and crying. And this was a man who never showed a lot of emotion and kept it under control. And he described what he had seen and said, I'm happy about passing over because I actually know where I'm going to be going and what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be going to them. So this was a complete turnaround, really. Someone who'd worked in the UFO field, but in a very expert, precise way, and believed everything I said about contact, but really didn't want to go there publicly, and that was okay. So we worked well together. But this was what he found out at that point in his life, that his whole life had meaning that he didn't understand on this level, but at another level, he was completely aware of it. So I think a lot more people will experience things like this, that they'll find out after or before they pass over what it all really meant. And someone will pat them on the back and say, you did well, you did all of those things, and you never really knew why, but you did it.
That's good news. We all want to be patted on the back, said,
Definitely.
you did well. You did well.
Especially as the veil gets thinner for us, but not quite yet. We're not
You
done.
screwed up a little bit, but you did okay.
Yeah.
Not you, Steve. I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
But I think I've mentioned this to you, Suzy, before, but I do have a theory and a philosophy about the soul, and that is once we die, we go through a period of life review. And I think this is a common notion, but somehow we review our lives, go over what we've learned, what mistakes we've made, but what we've learned mostly, and then go to the river of souls, which is, we'll say, a cosmic river out there somewhere, and jump in and cleanse ourselves with all the other souls that are in there in this river, and share what we've learned and absorb what many of them have learned, and come out rather a new cleansed soul, so to speak. And then we're ready to go back into a life form and continue the process or repeat the process. And in that way, what happens is we, all living things, become more enlightened and somehow grow in the process.
Do you think it's possible that we repeat sometimes the same life? Because time
The
is,
same life, or not the same life, but
you get to go at it again. And
you get to go again. Yeah.
Because God, I had so much deja vu when I was a young child. It was driving me nuts. I couldn't describe it to anybody, and they'd always look at me funny, and they're like, "This has happened before," and I just knew it. Um, and of course, this is actually quite common among people who have abnormal experiences, or I hate the word paranormal, but just have experiences. They talk about this, and then the deja vu rarely happens now. Um, there's one thing though I would like to do. uh, when I kick off here and go to that river, which makes a lot of sense. Is I like to take a vacation for a while before I come back because I feel I've done this a lot lately, and I just it's beautiful there, and I
Uh,
know that you know what I'm talking about, and
it
I
depends on how much vacation time you've accumulated, Steve.
well it's yeah, but yeah, but again, it's like it could be 1,000 years Earth time, but only a few days for you, or seem like a few days there. It's so hard to get out of talking uh, in the expression of time, because that's something that's very linear and just here in this reality, in this dimension, and outside of it, it doesn't exist at all. So it's and
No, time is
living in two worlds and knowing that it can make it a little confusing at times.
yeah, time is our construct.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think it's an absolute thing. No.
So when
Look at
I've
how much
had these,
trouble we had trying to figure out what time it was in New Zealand.
yeah, we did. When the experiences occur, I absolutely, it literally nothing moves except me. There's no sound. It's like a vacuum. And so I thought when I was a child and these things were happening to me, that was unique to me. I didn't understand what was going on. But later on in life, working with all of you, and working in this field, I learned that people, oh, that's what happened to me. Oh, that's what happened to me. Yeah, it was. It was dead silent. It made no sound. The crickets stopped. Everything stopped, including their clocks, if we remember to look at them. So I really think that time is being suspended. This is literally stopped, um, and they're doing that. Or are they shifting us into their reality more so that it ceases to exist for us? Either way, it's uh, it's quite spectacular.
Many experiences talk about that, Steve. And you probably have experienced it yourself, as I have, where you like I saw 5 orbs come through the wall in the living room, and my husband at the time and youngest son immediately became like statues. They stopped moving.
Oh,
And my eldest son was still moving, and he looked up at me, and I said, "There's 5 orbs crossing the room." And he said, "Yes, Mum." And he named how many were green and how many were yellow. And then there was a strange feeling of otherworldliness, and I don't remember anymore until I sort of came to, and I'm still standing at the kitchen bench. My son looks up at me and gives me a knowing smile, and he was only 4, and the other 2 start moving. So the TV was still going. The TV was not in that time span. It was still going, but everybody else had stopped. Time had stood still. And so we'd been somewhere and done something during that period of time. So the other 2 didn't notice anything. They just started moving again. So it was like time, a piece of time was taken out, but all you remembered was this point and this point just melding together nicely, and life went on. So I think people who say they've been missing for hours, or they felt like they'd been on a craft for hours, and then they find out that they were barely gone at any time at all in this time.
I remember when I was in sport group during the '90s, this one gentleman who's passed on now, describing one of his experiences, and he woke up in his bedroom and he looked out into the street, and um, he saw these, which I have seen myself, these sort of cigar tube shaped craft with little uh, windows in them on the side, and they were parked on the street, the city street, and people were being brought out of their homes in their night clothes. And he said it was the weirdest thing because he'd look down at the end of the street and he could see the cars driving by, uh, but they must not have seen what was going on, and they never entered into that street. Uh, and I've heard this before, where something will be happening, and cars are driving by, people are there, and they don't see it.
It's like when you've got a bunch of people and one is saying, "There's a UFO," and everyone else is saying, "Where? What?" And they
Yeah,
can't figure it out.
that's happened to you a lot, I would imagine. My late
Yes.
wife, when I was seeing a disc going over the backyard and looking at with binoculars, and she pulled the binoculars away from me, said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "It's a disc, and it's heading from south to northeast, which is in the direction of Edwards Air Force Base." And she looked at it and said, "That's just an airplane," and handed back the binoculars, and you could see that it was a disc without them. It was that apparent. It was glowing. It was circular. It was clearly not an airplane, but she saw an airplane.
Mm.
So there's a moment of silence. We've talked ourselves out. We talk
Well,
about this stuff
we
so
have
much, so
our
often with so many people.
we're being polite.
So you were talking about the fact that the experiences are not physical anymore, and they don't really need to be. And I feel that's definitely the case. That so much of the things I recall from a night of sleep and wake up remembering are experiences, not just dreams. Uh, but on the other hand, I know there's a certain level of it that is physical at times, because I will go to bed and I check myself every night. I look at my hands, because at my age, I bruise very easily now. I hit something, my skin's thin, and I get these bruises, and I hate them, and I wear gloves to make sure I don't get them. I'm very careful. And as you can see right here, uh, got a nasty one. I mean, it's really nasty. And I remember clearly sitting on the couch. Mary was asleep. We just got through having our sound bath, and I shut it off. Time to go to bed. And I remember looking at my hands. No bruises. Oh, they look so good. And I went to bed and I woke up with that. And so
Mm.
the next night I got in bed and I threw my arms around and I did this and I did that, see if there's anything I could hit that would cause that. And I couldn't find anything. Now, that's not to say that I don't remember getting up in the night and I hit my hand on something going to the bathroom, but I'm really good about remembering those things. So where did this come from? And that's not all. I've had the cat scratches. I've had little needle marks and stuff like that. Not a lot, not like I used to during the 90s and stuff, but I still have them. I still get them, and I still feel
I
taken from my
I
body and
saw
put
a
back
lot of
in.
that, Steve. I saw a lot of that with Marilyn, of course. She used to wake
Oh,
up with bruises and scratches
I
and
remember her telling me about that.
pin marks. Yeah, we've got photographs of the whole thing, and uh, she had had no reason to have any of that, but there they were.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. I mean, it is possible that uh, I'm sure. I mean, Susie talked about it in her book. Other people have talked about it, but that we are given checkups. We are physically
Yeah.
examined. They do have a concern about her health. There's only so much they can do without being about attention being brought to miraculous cures and things that would draw attention to them. So we know they do that.
I know there are I know there are very large craft out there, and they will be taking people on board. And I think particularly in our age group, because we've got a lot of experiences under our belt and have had a long time
Okay.
working with them. And I think that we will be taken on board craft, very large craft from time to time. Um, Depending on what is coming up on the planet, and our role or our influence or whatever upon it, working with it, put it that way, whether it fits what we're here to help with. But there are so many other ways that you can go on board craft. You can leave your body as a ball of light, which I recall doing many times, and just go to them and be there, and you can transform back into your human form, or you can transform into a grey form, as many people report. So that is still going on, but the old days of transporting huge amounts of people, I think, and doing the whole physical checkup thing, which is still done occasionally, but learning about humans, I think they've learnt everything they need to learn at the moment. They're still monitoring, of course, but that learning phase is over, which a lot of people describe in the early days of contact in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So there's a transition happening as we become more familiar with what's going on and what we need to do. They allow us more freedom in the way that we relate to them or receive messages or communications between them and us. And a lot of experiences just describe that. I have a friend in the States who's an experiencer in her 50s, and like me, she has that moment of knowing, she has that moment of instruction, and can recognize it and isolate it from anything else in her life, knows the frequency of it and knows what it's about. And I think more and more of our age group experiences are having that kind of contact now.
Do you ever recall becoming conscious in a body that wasn't yours? And I don't mean a gray, I mean another human body, because I have.
No, but I do recall being out of my body and looking at my own body, but
Yeah,
not from another body. No.
yeah, I have. It was very disorienting and confusing because I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or if it was real or what. And I remember looking in a mirror and looking at myself, and I was in a house, and it wasn't my house, and I was experiencing what it was like not to be in my body. And I just keep that as a note in your mind to see if anybody else starts
Mm,
talking about that, because I think there's a lot of different things going on with us now that are different, and as this experience continues to evolve. And
mm,
I can see some value in that being done, although I'm not quite clear what that is, but it's a feeling I got that's difficult to express verbally. And I think a lot of the things that we're experiencing and are beginning to experience more and more recently are difficult to convey verbally because they are telepathic and nonverbal. And we know our visitors are. And I think they're trying to get us more on that level where we can have that level of communication, which goes with what you were saying, Suzy. In order for us to have open contact, we would have to have more of that ability.
mm.
We've come to our hour and then some. And as always, before we close, I want to give you both an opportunity to share anything that you meant to share or still want to share with us before we sign off.
Well, I'll just say that I I haven't had direct what I feel is direct contact, but I've had indirect contact, and in that I feel I am being guided to do what I'm going to do soon, uh, and that is this collaboration I mentioned. And I think it's something I need to do, and I want to do, and I have to do. And it's one of those things that uh, I think the ETs, want me to do. So I'm encouraged by that. Um, so I'm on a mission. I'll
Yes,
leave
you
it
are.
at that.
You've been
Thanks.
on a mission for a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
Suzy?
Okay. Well, I guess there's several things that I'm doing. I really want to finish my book on hybrids and the soul and how that relates to our contact. I'm also working with experiencers who are writing books, so I'm assessing manuscripts and assisting them to get their books out there. I'm on my working with my sixth person at the moment.
That's great.
Um, so I really need to start concentrating on my own book as well. Um, and I've got a few ideas planned for how I can get some of the information out there that I still have that I didn't put in my book. I must have about 40 contact experiences that I have never talked about publicly, and I'm looking at a way to get those out there. They didn't fit what I wanted to focus on in my book. They talk about other things throughout contact. So, unless I write another book with those in, it's probably a good idea that I find some other way to put them out there in Substack or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I just would like to say I also warn experiencers that once you put your story out there, it can invite a lot of positive attention, but it can also invite negative attention. So I see it as my duty to, having experienced the negative attention, to warn people of that so that they know that what they're getting into. It's not all love and light in the contact field, and never has been, and it's probably going to get worse for a little while. So
Yeah.
I like experiencers to A, feel that they have a support base if they are going public, and B, know what they might be in for.
And for myself, I am currently working on a script, which is a follow-up film to my movie I did in 2017, released in 2018, but something is there. So much has happened. Next year it'll be a decade since I made that film, and I think it's overdue that especially with the capability I have now, to do a film that's more on a feature film level. Um, Not just about my experience, but about this experience in general and the things we've been talking about and how it impacts people's lives and their families, and the world. So, but keeping it story driven and not so much special effects and action and all that, to just really get to the heart of the matter. And that, I don't know if you guys have been hearing this. I've certainly heard it from Debbie Cobble and some other people. Everybody reaches a point where they get so fed up talking about this and working on being heard and getting the message out there that they want to quit. They just want to get away from it for a while or just leave it altogether, but they can't. Something won't let them stop. And man, do I know that feeling. And there's times I just want to say, God, I need to go take my sports car to the track and drive at 160 miles an hour through corners and just, kind of shock the monkey, but they won't let you do it. And then the next
Mm.
thing I know, I get up in the morning, oh God, I got to work on this show because it's really important. And then I forget that I wanted to get away from it. So I don't know if you've been ever experiencing that, but I have been, and I know Debbie has, and a lot of other people. And uh, but I think it's
I
safe to
know
say,
exactly what you're talking about, Steve.
Mm.
I know
Me too.
exactly.
Sometimes there's you're really busy doing something, working on a project, and then you have a bit of a break, and you've finished it, and there's a bit of a break, and you think, oh, good, I'll have a rest. And then suddenly, bang, in your inbox is something else, and you have that feeling of commitment, and you're going to do it, and you feel excited about it. But yes, I've been doing this for 50 years, so
you got me
in the
beat. I've only
sightings
been
arena,
doing it for 40.
42 years actually. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I got
one
you
of
all
the
beat.
things, yeah,
56
that's
years.
true. That's true. You do. But there's one thing that always comes to mind when I reach that point. And I don't know if it's coming from them. It probably is, and that is to go to the beach and sit there and listen to the waves crash and watch the birds fly, or go in the backyard and look at the trees and the birds, and you get this peace. That's because that's
Yes.
who you are, is that, and then it brings you back to this sort of like your river, refreshed.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right, I want to thank you both for being on Breaking the Silence project again, and we could have talked about a lot more, but we'll certainly do this again and keep this going, because in between when we do this, so much happens, and then it's time to talk about it again and share with the public, and that's exactly what we did with this show. And so, yes, we got to do this again soon.
Okay.
Very good being with you both. Steve, you've done so much. Suzy, you've done so much. I've done so much.
You've done so
Yeah.
much. I was going to say that, but you cut me off. There you
Yeah, pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good
Thank you,
news,
Robert.
guys.
Thank you,
you.
Steve.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.